All right, welcome. Today we're going to dive into the core philosophy of Freemasonry. And we're going to do it by looking at a really cool source from 1925 called Old Tyler Talks. It's basically a series of conversations that take these huge, deep ideas and make them surprisingly easy to get your head around.
So, this quote here is from our main guide in the text, a character they call the Old Tyler. And it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? Right off the bat, he's telling us we're not looking for simple one-line answers. We're getting into something that's meant to be limitless, something you could explore for your entire life and still just be scratching the surface.
Now, what's so great about this source is that it's not some dry lecture or a boring textbook. Nope. It's framed as a series of dialogues. And this format, this back and forth, lets us explore all these big questions through the eyes of a newcomer as he talks with his seasoned guide.
So you've got these two figures. On one side, there's the new brother. You can think of him as our stand-in. He's us. He's puzzled, he's looking for straight answers, and he's full of all the questions you or I might have. And on the other side, you've got the old Tyler. He's the wise, experienced guide who gives perspective. Not with complicated jargon, but with, a bit of wit and a whole lot of common sense.
And boom, the new brother kicks things off with the biggest, most fundamental question of all. It's the one that gets right to the heart of all the confusion people have. Is it a religion? A way of thinking? Or is it just a social club for guys who like titles?
And this is where it gets really interesting. The old Tyler's response is, well, it's not what you'd expect. Instead of just giving a neat little definition, he starts by taking the question itself apart, basically showing why a simple label is never going to work here.
He goes for the biggest misconception first, head on. All right, let's clear the air. Is this thing a religion?
And the old Tyler's answer is just no. It's direct, it's simple, there's no room for doubt, it just clears the slate so he can build up a much more interesting explanation of what Masonry actually is.
And this quote just nails the core difference. See, Masonry does require you to believe in a supreme being, for sure. But, and this is the key, it very intentionally does not tell you who or what that has to be. So it becomes this unique space of spiritual unity, a place where people from totally different faiths can find common ground, instead of a place that pushes a specific religious dogma.
Then he takes that idea and expands on it with this really powerful thought. He's basically saying that trying to define Masonry, to put it in a box, is like trying to define God. The second you draw a line around it, you're limiting it, and you've kind of defeated the whole purpose of something that's supposed to be limitless.
But, the conversation doesn't just stay up in the philosophical clouds. The new brother brings it right back down to earth by confronting a very difficult, very human reality. The fact that some Masons, well, they aren't perfect.
So he lays out this list of real-world examples. He's talking about Jones, who lies, Roberts, who got arrested, Burton and Larson, who are caught up in scandals. And he's asking, if Masonry is so great, why does it seem to fail with so many of the guys in it? It's a fair question.
The old Tyler's comeback is immediate, and it's such a powerful reframing of the whole problem. He completely flips the script. The institution isn't failing the men, he says. The men are failing the institution.
And he drives his point home with an analogy that makes perfect sense. He says, look, if a man who goes to church every Sunday goes out and tells a lie, is that the church's fault? Of course not. The teachings can be flawless, but the people following them are still, human. The same logic applies here. So here's the crucial takeaway. Masonry offers a set of tools, a blueprint, a source of light, but it can't force you to pick up the tools or look at the light. If some men choose to close their eyes, you can't blame the torch, can you? It's a workshop for making good men better, not a museum for displaying perfect ones. Okay, so that leads us away from the external organization and all its imperfect members and directs us inward, toward the symbolic journey that's happening inside each individual. The new brother then asks about the inner meaning of what's arguably Masonry's most central allegory, something called the third degree. He has this gut feeling that the literal story being told is really a symbol for something way, way deeper.
And the old Tyler responds with this really profound idea, using the super simple image of a piece of string. He's suggesting that real immortality isn't just about what happens after you die. It implies a soul that has no beginning, just like it has no end. It must have always existed. It's a pretty mind-bending concept.
He then explains that the whole ceremony is really a symbol for a process that happens inside of you. It's about the lifelong struggle to face down the ruffians we all have inside us. Our selfishness, our dishonesty, our mean streaks. And the goal is to subdue those things and to raise that better part of yourself, your inner master builder, so it can shine.
So where does all this lead? Well, the conversation doesn't just wrap up with a neat little answer. Instead, it ends with a challenge. A choice, really, about how you're going to walk this path moving forward.
I love this part. The old Tyler completely rejects this rigid, fundamentalist way of looking at things. He doesn't want to just feed on old, stale ideas without thinking about them. Instead, he sees himself as an adventurer, somebody who is constantly out there seeking new understanding and fresh meaning in all these ancient symbols.
This presents a choice, and it is crystal clear. On one side, you have the old paths. These are for sheep, he says, for people who just want to follow old dogma from dead years without asking questions. But on the other side, you have the new cut trails. These are for real men, he says, for daring hearts on a genuine quest for truth, using all that ancient wisdom as a guide, not as a cage.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The text is telling us the real value isn't in finding some final destination or some simple definition. It's in the journey itself, that continuous, adventurous, and deeply personal mission of self-improvement. So the question is left for all of us. Which path will you choose?